Whenever you're taking a patient's intake and outtake, intake, output, or input, output, I mean, it may be worded either way. Whenever we're taking it, it's taken based upon a liquid diet or the infusion and what's been going through their body, and that's liquid as well. So we got multiple ones here I want to do just to make sure that you understand exactly what I'm talking about when I say intake and outtake. So on this first one here, we're going to talk a parental, and I know it's not parental, yeah, my pronunciation on this word I struggle with, but this is talking about through infusion. So we have a client that's been administered 1,000 milliliters of this Dextro 5 water through IV at a flow rate of 100 milliliters per hour. And they said this is since 2300. So at 11 p.m., this is what's been going on. So at 11 p.m. that we're doing this, he said that, oh, what happened? Something happened at 3:0300, which is 3 a.m. Says that the physician increases the IV flow rate. So they increase it to this, which the value of the parental intake should be documented. So we're wanting to know what are they going to document between 2300 and 0700. So that's telling me from 11 p.m. shift to 7 a.m. We're wanting to know what's documented. So what I need to do is take the 2300 to 0300 and recognize that how many hours is that? So that's 12, 1, 2, 3, right? That's 4 hours. That's 4 hours. They had a flow rate of 100 milliliters per hour. So if I'm going to document what happened during those hours, I'm going to multiply that by 4. And what happens? My H is reduced, my time. So now I have 100 times 4, which is 400 milliliters. Okay, so 4 hours of the shift, they've received 400 milliliters. They said a change happened at 0300. So at 0300 and it may continue the next day, but however, we're only documented during a shift, and then the next person will come in and document that shift. So from 0300 to 0700, well, that is 3 a.m. to 7 a.m., which is 4 hours. And they did a flow rate of 125 milliliters per hour. So we're going to multiply it by 4 hours. And now we're going to say that that is what? You can do it on the side if you need to. We got 500 milliliters. Now let's add this up. We got 400 milliliters plus 500 milliliters. That tells me that they documented during that shift for the infusion 900 milliliters. So I want to do another one just to make sure you understand. So the patient has a 1 liter. Well, what do I know about liters? I know for every 1 liter, it's 1,000 milliliters. Okay. And it's been infused at a flow rate of 80 milliliters per hour. And then the patient receives this 1 gram in a 200 milliliters of sodium chloride, and it all happened at 0900. This happened at 0900. Okay. Since the statement's not made here, we're going to take that it's been going on throughout the whole shift. And they're wanting you to take a calculation of the shift input during the shift 1500, which is 3 p.m. to 11 p.m. And since there's not a statement here specifying that it didn't happen or it started at a different time, then this means that from 3 p.m. to whatever it's been going on, right? However, let's look at this. They said at 0900, they gave them this. Well, 0900 didn't fall between 3 p.m. and 11 p.m. So someone else has already documented it. So I don't need this to be documented again. I mean, it needs to be on the chart, but it's already been taken care of. So let's read on. The patient has received 20 milligrams in a 50 milliliters, and it was an IV piggyback. And they said they received it twice a day, and they received it during 0730 to 1930. All right. So if they received it at 0730, their next time to receive it should be in the middle of this shift or at the beginning of it. So we're only going to count it once. Okay. If it happened both times during that shift, we count it twice, but we're only going to count it once. So what I'm going to do is that 1,500 to 2,300, right? We know how many hours that is. That's a shift. And usually shifts are running at, I know some nurses work, what, 24 hour and 48 hours. But this shift here is 8-hour shift. But when they document it, even though you may work a bunch of hours, you still document it in a certain shift and you evaluate it every time. So this is 8 hours. And we got this flow rate here of 80 milliliters per hour. So what I'm going to do is multiply it by 8 hours. So I know how much IV the infusion is, how many milliliters it was been infused. All right, so we know that much. What we do know is that we had at least one IV piggyback and it was 50 milliliters. So I'm going to add it on. So what would be recorded during that shift is this. Remember, this was already recorded on a different shift. This happened twice, but it happened during this window. So it only happened once during that shift. So the other time it's been recorded. Okay, so that's IV flow rate. Let's do another one. So it is 0800. The nurse starts the 1 liter of Dextrol 5, and we have a flow rate of 100 milliliters per hour. All right. So at 0800, they have a flow rate of 100 milliliters per hour. And the textbook went from H to HR back and forth. So just be consistent. If you see HR, use HR. If you just see H, use H. And it says at 1300, the physician decreased. So right here, there was a change here, 1300. So from 0800 to 1300. So we got 9, 10, 11, 12, 1. That's 5 hours, right? For 5 hours, they did it, the flow rate at 100 milliliters per hour, which gives me 500 milliliters. And we got to be careful on our notation. Our writing gets a little messy sometimes. Got to make sure it's clear, especially if someone else has got to read it. And then it says from 1300, it decreased, and we read on, and I see that, let's just go ahead and do a shift. And I apologize, it doesn't have the shift on here. So let's go 0800 to 1500. Yeah, 1500. Let's go to 1500. Let's make this shift 0800 to 1500. Apologize, I didn't catch that it wasn't on there. So from 1300 to 1500, they did 75 milliliters per hour. Make sure my notation stays the same. So we know that's 2 hours, which we know that's what, 150 milliliters. All right, now let's read this part here. It says that an IV piggyback of the 20 milligrams and 50 milliliters at 1200. So at 1200, I'm going to add on 50 more milliliters. And what we're going to do is add all these up. So I got 0 plus 0, then 5 plus 5, carry the 1. So 700 milliliters is recorded during that shift. Okay. All right, now our last one. So we talked about IV infusions. What if we're talking about just strictly a liquid diet? Whenever we talk about ice chips, and this is just a side note over here, ice chips, we always take half. Why? Because if you put ice chips in a cup, a glass, a bowl, whatever it is in the container, when it melts, it becomes half the volume. I mean, it changes, right? Because it goes from solid to liquid. So if I said that you had 2 cups, or let's say 4 milliliters, whatever it may be, 4 ounces, whatever it may be, that I say it is, or that it's documented that it is, you take half of that. And then that means it was just literally 1 cup, because after it melted, It was really totally 1 cup. That's the volume, and that's what we're measuring in, right? So take that as a note. If it says popsicles, popsicles are 3 ounce each. Okay, so that's that volume. So have that as a side note. So now let's read this here. A patient consumes 2 ounces of ice pops. Those are popsicles. So if I take that, but it's already written to me in 2 ounce. It didn't tell me they had 3 ounce, 3 popsicles or 2 popsicles or 1. They already gave you the volume, so we're okay here, right? But if it wasn't given to you, then you will need to calculate the fact that each popsicle or each pop, ice pops are 1, as 3 ounces for every one. All right. And then it says we have a 30, then we have ice chips. And we have 30 milliliters. Remember, we got to take half of this volume. So that means it's a total of 15 milliliters because when it changes, right, during the shift. It says they infused 125 milliliters during the shift. So we got 125 milliliters infused and per hour. And then they have emptied a catheter. So that's an output. This is all input. So we got output of 800 milliliters during this shift. And they said they did it at the end of the shift. I'm not sure if they do it throughout the process, but whichever it is, it's made the statement here. And then it says it had 80 milliliters emptied from a wound drainage or just a drainage period. And so that's 80 milliliters because that's what the body lost. And they want to know what's the intake versus the outtake. And we're on this 6 a.m. to 6 p.m. shift. So that means they were being infused for 12 hours. We need to factor that in. We also need to convert this ounce to milliliters because everything needs to be in milliliters. So we know for every 1 ounce, it's equal to 30 milliliters. So I'm going to take 2 times 30, and that gives me 60 milliliters. So my total input, oh, let's calculate this infusion. Of course, on your documentations, this is oral, so it needs to be separated. So I have 75 milliliters that was intake, and that was done orally. And then this 125 times 12 is going to be my infusion, my parenteral intake. Okay, so we have 2 intakes here. One was infusion, the other one was through the mouth. This output is what your body let out, what your body lost. And so this is my output. So you definitely want to compare that as a nurse or whatever. You want to make sure that they are consuming more than they are letting out. If they're letting out more than they're consuming, there's something to be concerned about. This infusion, this may be an okay case. This is something you'll learn about when you get in the program, but this is definitely something to watch for. Sometimes patients are on just a clear or just on a liquid diet and they're not being infused, and then you need to calculate all that up. And there's multiple things about your body releasing that we'll get to later on in the semester or when you get in the program. I do want to tell you that if you're having irrigation flush, your body's not losing that whatever's been flushed through you. So whatever, so if they said that or they're flushing you with 6,000 milliliters, you'd have to take it and subtract it from the total that was collected. And, you know, because it could have been what, 1,500 collected, or it could have been 1,000 collected, or excuse me, not 1,500, sorry, that would be way off. It could have been like 7,500 or 7,000 that was collected as an output. And you would subtract it, and that would be what the body truly lost. So then that means the body would truly have lost the milk. But if this was the scenario, you know, they would have truly lost only 1,000 milliliters. So anyways, this is let me make sure I don't have another one to go over. Oh, I do. Let's do this last one. All right. So the patient has an IV Ringier infusion of 75 milliliters per hour. This has been going on since 11 p.m. During the shift at 0300, the patient pulls the IV out, and then at 0500, they restart it at the same rate. So what are you going to document as the intake for that shift? Well, I know from 2300, let's do this, 2300 to 0300 is 4 hours. So I'm going to multiply that by 75 milliliters. So 4 times 75, yeah, that's 300 milliliters. Okay, and then, okay, so from 0300 to 0500, you know, they weren't getting nothing, all right? The patient pulled the IV out, so there's nothing there. But 0500 to 0700, since they started back at the same rate, we know that that's 2 hours, and we're going to multiply that by 75 milliliters. And that's 150 milliliters. And we add that up, we get 450 milliliters total that goes on the chart for intake for that shift.